Yo, what's going on, guys? We're back here with another episode of Around the Beat, HoopsHype show that gives you the pulse of every team. This week, we're doing the Miami Heat. We're joined by ClutchPoints editor and Miami Heat beat writer Zach Weinberger. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Obviously, we're heading to that home stretch, final couple games here. It should be exciting. We'll see. We'll talk about it. But yeah, I know we're getting into that really intense point of the season.
Yeah, and I'm very fortunate to have spent the last year and a half being able to watch those games with you in Miami. And I think this is a team that is the definition of misunderstood because everyone knows them as the new play-in purgatory team, and all the situation with Jimmy Butler last year. This year, the Bam Adebayo game probably is what we would say is like the big thing that everyone thinks about. But there's been so many highs and lows for this year with the new offense, with Norm Powell looking great and being a first-time All-Star, while a low being Tyler Hero missing almost the entirety of the year. How would you gauge this season in contrast to the last few? Obviously, we'll say last year was an outlier with the whole Jimmy situation that kind of just muddled everything, and it just seemed like everyone was just kind of like mentally exhausted by the end. How would you compare basically this year to all the other years?
I mean, I would just say the word and phrase that just comes to mind to me is just it's extreme disappointment. Listen, I mean, this is the fourth straight year that they're locked into the play-in. Okay, they don't want to do that. Obviously, that first year where they were in the play-in, 2023, they made the finals, right? But it's just a little different this time around. It's the fourth straight year. This culture, this organization is based on their winning ways. And I mean, yeah, they're scraping by and getting to the playoffs, but they don't want to do that, right? So it's been extremely disappointing, especially because this roster you think would have actually at least possibly got that sixth seed, if not at least a high play-in seed, but at least the sixth seed to kind of avoid the play-in tournament and see how they do in that first round. Now it's the same thing where they're the 10th seed, which is worse than the eighth that they've been. And it's basically kind of similar to what they were last year. And again, like you mentioned, that sort of Jimmy Butler outlier thing was really real with them. Even Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra and the players admitted that had some sort of effect on them. You can't have that excuse now. I mean, listen, the offense was great to start, then it's been kind of dropping off. The defense has been a very interesting drop off for me. That's usually what they kind of hang their hats on. But it's been extremely disappointing and very head scratching. Again, the injuries, like you mentioned, and we'll talk about that, I guess. But yeah, no, it's just been, there's no doubt, disappointment. This is not even being a hot take. How can you not be disappointed a fourth straight year in the play-in tournament?
I think you hit it right there. It is a weird thing in terms of the injuries this year because I think also minutes this year. I know Eric, somebody's always going to make adjustments. It's game by game who's going out there. And I don't think anybody is taking it to heart, especially you're playing for the Heat, because, there'll be a stretch where Simone Fontecchio is getting a bunch of minutes. Then there'll be a stretch where it'll feel like they're going to Jaime and Jovic. To you, what do you think's, I mean, this roster, we haven't really been able to see them fully together. And we talked about this with the whole Norm Tyler. Do you have one come off the bench? Do you have one start? What do you think's been the biggest chemistry restriction besides health? Do you think it's the new system, or do you think it's just not having enough runway to get these guys together in a new system?
I think it's the latter. I also just think that these pieces, and again, it could be because of the health, it could be because of the time there, but these pieces are not gelling together. And obviously, that Tyler Norm sort of tandem has been kind of the forefront of people talking about the failures of this season. The thing is that they've been together on the court for like roughly, I want to say 15 games. Obviously, Tyler's missed 48 total games this year, and then Norm has been 20 so plus. So I mean, again, it's just hard to sort of like come up with these lineups and rotations so that you can kind of throw them out on the floor and they succeed, but they just kind of look so rough together. And when you have 3 games left in the season, you're still experiencing that. It just also, again, like this roster has looked so uh, kind of dreadful against these teams like Toronto and Boston and these other teams in the East because their size. and their 3-point shooting and all these other things where they just look outmatched. So to me, it's like there's this uncomfortable sort of discussion you have to have about this roster and how are you supposed to address it. Obviously, listen, the Giannis thing is on the table. That's obviously going to be a storyline, but there needs to be some sort of realization from the front office about how they can compete in the future. And to me, again, health is always the thing. It's been a problem the past like 3 or 4 seasons, but you can't use that as an excuse again. I mean, when they're on the floor, it looks a little rough. It's up and down. It's tumultuous. It's convoluted. So yeah, health has a lot to do with it. I just don't know if the attributes and the strengths of these players fit together.
That's a good way of putting it. Definitely saying, and this is something you and I always talk about. I don't want to say it's a hodgepodge roster because that's the Sacramento Kings. It's not like it's thrown together hastily.
Right. Yeah.
It's weird because Sam was going to bring up right here, talk about Jaime Jaquez being a six man, and I know that's what he's going to say. But Sam, what's your take on when you look out of, because I feel like him and I, we know what these players are, but what's your thoughts from Jaquez to the rest of the roster when you look at it that maybe is it as weird fitting as maybe some people might think?
I don't know if it's I don't follow the team like day to day and stuff, but it seems like they're still playing around rotations. Like their guys are starting differently. Like Fontecchio now Jovic is out of the roster, out of the rotation for a while. So it's kind of I don't know if it's that is because I think a lot of the Heat defense relies on team defense, not really like individual. I guess they had like Davion Mitchell and stuff, but like when you have guys coming in and out of rotation, it's hard to kind of communication wise on defense, right? It's like Bam's on watching over, communicating with everyone, and then you guys got different guys like Pelly Larson's coming in, and you guys Fontecchio. Sometimes it's just tough for them to get form like a defensive identity, I guess. Like this team sometimes gives up like 150s, 130s, 140s, like every night. Like just looking at the box score, I'm like, what happened to Heat? Like what happened to Miami Heat? They used to be like the team that prides themselves on defense. And I know, and even like Norm Powell, right? Like, I think recently Spo or someone was saying like, oh, like we need more from a defensive leader. I don't know, was that something that happened like recently? I think. So it's just kind of interesting watching from afar, just from a team that prided themselves, like when Jimmy was there, prided himself on defense, and now to where they are, they just kind of like this year, right? They're playing a lot more up tempo now, so that probably has something to do with there's more possessions now. The pace is faster, so obviously there's going to be the other team's going to score more points. But I don't know, like when you watch them, they give up a lot of layups and some open threes and things like that. It's just you look at them, it's like they do look like a playing team right now.
And
they're ranked 11th in defensive rating. Ironically, though, they're like not a bad defensive team.
What's the net rating though?
13th in the league, and granted, they do give up the 8th most points while they score the 2nd most.
That's crazy. It's kind of like the Mavs with Donnie Nelson back in the day, or like Doug Moe with the Nuggets. Like this version of it. It just doesn't seem very Spo like, I guess you'd say, or Pat Riley like.
Yeah. What's your thoughts, Zach, on that? I want to.
It's just that the defensive rating, like you mentioned, is like again early in the season, halfway point of the season. This was a top 10 defense. Like they were on the borderline top 5. Like this was a team that again the defense is going to be good if the offense fails. That's kind of been this team for the past couple seasons when Jimmy was there, the final couple seasons. This time around, again, this final stretch, the final quarter of the season has been so, like he said, so uncharacter like. I mean, again, it's just been giving up 150 points, or like you're seeing again, it's been too much that I've been having to tweet like the Heat are close to breaking the franchise record for most points allowed. Like it's been happening it's been happening quite a bit. So you just have to wonder what's going on. But again, like I said, I just think this team is so outmatched compared to these other sort of like organizations in the conference. You looked at the Toronto game, you look at the Cleveland, Boston. I mean, Boston, it's like I don't even think necessarily the Heat played bad in that game. It's just Boston's way better than them. I mean, that's just kind of how it is. I mean, they've won a few against Detroit and New York, but you look at that and there has to be some sort of realization that has to be hit with this front office about how this team is constructed. again, I think the defense will kind of round itself out. We'll see how they play in the play-in tournament, but like the Heat is the one team I think in the play-in that has been trending downwards, and everybody else has been trending upwards. So they're really heading into a not a great point here. So if they could finish out strong, we'll see how they are. But again, the defense has been the most surprising thing. The offense, I would imagine it's up and down. But like you said, they averaged the second most points per games, but again, the offensive rating is kind of middle of the pack. It's just because of those extra possessions, and sometimes they're fumbling those extra possessions. So this is a very peculiar team. Because to start, they were kind of fun to watch, and then now it's been kind of like so and back to what they were in this mediocrity kind of level. We'll see how they finish off the season, but they're in a weird place right now.
Yeah, I think they're kind of like what the old saying, between a rock and a hard place, in the sense that the roster, they have what, 7 dudes scoring double digits.